The television show The Big Bang Theory is ending.
Welcome to Plain English, the podcast that goes at the right speed for English language learners. Listen now and read the transcript online at plainenglish.com. Now, here's Jeff, your host for today's episode.
Fans of Sheldon, Leonard, Penny, and nerd humor overall, take note. This 12th season of The Big Bang Theory will be the last one, and another traditional network sitcom bites the dust. Hey everyone, I'm Jeff, and you are listening to episode 81 of Plain English, the podcast in English about current events for people who are learning our great, and let's face it, difficult language. JR is the producer, and you can find both of us on Facebook and Twitter under the username Plain English Pod on both of those platforms. Since today's episode is number 81, you can find our transcripts online at plainenglish.com/81, plainenglish.com/81. And like always, the transcripts have translations of key words and phrases from English to Portuguese, Spanish, Chinese, Japanese, Italian, and French. plainenglish.com/81 to read along with today's episode. The Big Bang Theory is ending. No, not the actual theory. That's still the most widely accepted explanation for the beginning of the universe as we know it. I'm talking about the television show, The Big Bang Theory, which stars Jim Parsons as Sheldon and Johnny Galecki as Leonard, two super smart but socially challenged physicists at Caltech who struggle in life and love even as they shine professionally. The show contrasts the two geeks with the street-smart Penny, who tries to teach them a thing or two about life. The show's main conflict is between so-called street smarts and book smarts. If someone is book smart, it means that person knows a lot of academic things, like about physics, say, or another traditional subject you might have studied in school. By contrast, if a person is street smart, that person got his or her education in a different way, on the streets or the school of reality. The premise of The Big Bang Theory is to take two guys who are extremely book smart and not one bit street smart and put them in a show with a character who is their opposite. Hilarity ensues, to an extent. People love The Big Bang Theory, and people hate The Big Bang Theory. When the show premiered, it got a mixed reception. Some people thought it was funny, but others thought the humor was formulaic and predictable. It was just the 68th most popular show on television in the United States in 2007, its first year, pulling in about 8 million viewers. But by season 4, It was the highest rated comedy on television and was ranked 1, 2, or 3 overall every season since 2012. Last year, it was the highest rated show on television with over 18 million viewers. The Big Bang Theory is one of the longest running sitcoms in history and is about to enter its 12th and final season. CBS, the U.S. network that airs the show, announced last week that the series would be ending. The reason? Jim Parsons, who plays the lead character Sheldon Cooper, declined to return after this season. CBS offered him $50 million for 2 more seasons. The rest of the cast was also offered rich contracts, but Parsons was the one who turned it down. He turned down $50 million for 2 years of work. But it's actually understandable. He's an actor in his early 40s, and he's been playing essentially the same character for 12 years now. He's a good actor, and The Big Bang Theory is a popular show, but at the same time, at this point in his career, he probably wants to expand his range. I don't watch The Big Bang Theory, but one article I read said that the Sheldon Cooper character hasn't evolved much over the years, leaving Parsons playing an ageless, unevolving character year after year. So, to me, it's understandable that a talented actor like Jim Parsons would want to move beyond his current role. The Big Bang Theory is what we call a sitcom, or a situational comedy. It is a relic from a past era in television. If you like good television shows, dramas, or comedies, there is no better time to be alive than right now. There is so much good stuff out there on Netflix and other streaming services. You can have your choice of excellent, high-quality programs to suit your taste. But television wasn't always that way. The 1980s and 1990s were the decade in which sitcoms really thrived. Powerhouse shows like Cheers, Seinfeld, Friends, and Frasier dominated television ratings. They were on free television and drew millions of viewers each week. The same time slot every week, usually for half an hour. You did not want to show up at school or work on Friday without having seen the most popular sitcoms on Thursday night, the traditional night with the biggest ratings. TV networks in those days reached a lot of people, and that meant they had to please a lot of people too. So their shows didn't exhibit much risk-taking. They were formulaic, safe comedies that could please the most people at a time. They were disrupted by reality television shows like American Idol, but had a resurgence with a smarter, wittier, more modern series like 30 Rock and Parks and Recreation. But those shows, too, eventually came to an end, and they really haven't had any popular sitcoms in the age of Netflix. When there is so much good material out there, why would you settle for a crowd pleaser? Now, that's not to take anything away from these shows. They were good for what they were. In fact, I still watch reruns from my favorite sitcoms every now and then just to bring back memories. But I much prefer the new dramas on Netflix to anything that's on free network TV these days. It's probably been 10 years, if not longer, since I've tuned into a show on network television that wasn't sports or news. The final episode of The Big Bang Theory will air in May 2019 and will be the show's record-setting 279th episode. I think 279 episodes worth of physics nerd jokes are probably enough, don't you? By the way, the Wikipedia entry on The Big Bang Theory says that Sheldon was a child prodigy. And if you're on the Plain English email list, you know what a child prodigy is. That's because that was the bonus word I chose to include in my email summary about the Aretha Franklin episode. For the rest of you who are not yet on that list, a child prodigy is a child with an exceptional talent where the kid can perform at the level of the very best adults. Like I said, everyone on the email list already knew that, and I don't want you guys to miss out on any of the good stuff that JR and I produce every week. So if you want one more vocabulary word from inside the show, every Monday and Thursday, go to plainenglish.com/mail, plainenglish.com/mail, and enter your details. I want to say thank you to someone, I just don't know who. I saw a really nice review of Plain English on Apple Podcasts by a listener in Australia. The listener said, "It's amazing when you can understand the whole episode, not just parts of it, like with other shows." And this mystery listener said it's nice to learn the expressions that were used in the show, since you have real life context right there to help you understand the word. The bad thing about Apple Podcast reviews is you can't see the person's name, but I know you're out there, and I wanted to say thanks for leaving that helpful review. And if you are listening on an iPhone and want to leave a review, I would be most appreciative, since that's a big factor that Apple uses when deciding to show a podcast like Plain English in its podcast search results. I also have a couple of other hellos for today's program. Ivan wrote from Bulgaria. He's listening because he has a business partner in the UK and they talk on the phone all the time, so he needs to get better at listening to English. Listen, talking on the phone is hard. Here's an interesting thing Ivan said. He tried listening to audiobooks, but had a hard time with them. And that was my experience too. I listened to one audiobook in Spanish, but I had already read that book in English and seen the movie, so I knew the story really well. Ivan says he gets about 80% of the words on plain English, which is a great place to be. It means you can understand the content and enjoy the program, but there's still something to learn each time. My only worry is that Ivan's going to get to 100% and he's not going to need me anymore. What am I going to do then? Ivan, thanks for listening and for sharing your story with us. Also, a quick hello to Miguel from Guadalajara and Pedro from Brazil, who sent me notes this week. So another sitcom bites the dust. That's what I said right at the opening of today's program. And what I mean by that is another sitcom is ending or dying. When something bites the dust, it's over. It's ending or it failed. And you usually use this phrase when you have a series of similar things ending. In this case, The Big Bang Theory didn't fail. It was number 1 last year, but it is ending. And a lot of similar shows are ending, so you would say that in May, The Big Bang Theory will bite the dust. Here are a few other examples of bite the dust. In the United States, our traditional big department stores are in big trouble. A lot of them are closing stores, shrinking their footprint, or going out of business entirely. This month, Carson Peary Scott, a popular department store in the Chicago area for over 150 years, will close all its stores for good. Another department store bites the dust. It's just the latest to close forever, since those stores are not popular anymore. If you're a fan of a manual transmission and you want a new car, you have fewer and fewer options these days, since most new cars, at least in my country, come only in automatic transmission. And last week, luxury car maker Audi announced it would not offer a manual transmission in any of its cars. Another one bites the dust. One more car maker is switching to automatic only. What else can we say bites the dust? Oh, local newspapers. This one is kind of unfortunate, but regional and local newspapers in the United States are going out of business. In the last 10 years, 1,800 newspapers have bitten the dust. They have gone out of business. That's all for today's Plain English. If you haven't seen The Big Bang Theory, you can check out the final season. It starts later in September, but there are probably reruns on free television in your country. They're on all the time here. Just a quick reminder to click subscribe on your Apple Podcasts or other podcast app, or follow on Spotify. And if you're listening on an iPhone, you can leave a review in Apple Podcasts. Every time you do that, you're helping new people discover the show all around the world. And if you've ever thought you want to help us out here in exchange for some of the great content you're getting, then this is the thing you can do. Go into Apple Podcasts app on your iPhone and leave a written review, just like one of your fellow listeners did this week from Australia. JR and I will be back on Monday with episode 82, where we'll talk about the health benefits of drinking alcohol. Yeah, right. Actually, a new study says all those supposed health benefits are not there after all.